My hair looks fashionably tousled. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Looks like I got dragged by an anonymous friend out for a motorcycle day on a Sunday, and I'm riding the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle. I feel like with that name, we need some totally stereotypical heavy guitar music. Editor, please. Ah, yeah, that's properly douchey. Okay, and enough of that. Let's just play something normal. As you've rightly noted, I have not reviewed a motorcycle from Micah Drives just yet. I guess technically Micah Rides. This will be the first, but it's not the first time I've ridden a motorcycle. I've been riding for about 20 years. You don't care about my credentials, you just want to know about the motorcycle. I will shut up and talk about it. The Ducati Scrambler is one of several Scramblers you can buy. You know how Ford will make a zillion different Mustangs from the same basic package? The Ducati Scrambler is basically the same thing. So this is like my Micah spec version of the Scrambler. I rode the Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled last year, which sits up a little bit higher, but this one is right in my wheelhouse, and I'll tell you why. And it has to do with my crotch. Now that's a tease! All right, seated upon the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle with the drone guys behind me, I'm going to pan down dramatically. Look at that leg. It's slightly bent and it's still touching the ground flat-footed. The Full Throttle sits much, much lower than the Desert Sled among the Scrambler family, which means my feet touch the ground very easily. It's a very confident, inspiring bike. Like if it was your first motorcycle and you were afraid of dropping it at stoplights, this makes it very easy to not do that. The only downside is that when I put my feet on the pegs, they're up quite a bit higher than I would expect. So this might be an indication that I'm not in as good a shape as I should be, experiencing a little light cramping while my body adapts to the ergonomics. But otherwise, it's actually quite comfortable. If you reach the bar, very natural position. When seated on the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle, your view forward looks a little something like this. Now this doesn't come stock. This is something I just popped on so I could have somewhere to mount my phone for navigation. But if you look over to the left here, what I love is that the controls are utterly intuitive to use even with the glove on. Yes, I recognize I don't have a glove on right now. So this is the low beam, high beam switch. Here you can go through the various modes in the gauge cluster. Here's your left, right. Everything is so cleanly delineated that it's just really easy to hop on and use all the controls like they're meant to be used. Gauge cluster goes through a sequence. Tachometer, flashing lights, all the good stuff. Little side stand indicator. If I had one complaint about the gauge cluster, it's that the digital tach on the bottom here is not as vivid as perhaps I would like. I do like how compact this is though. It's not using up a lot of space. This is where you gas it up. Every time you do, you'll be reminded that Ducati was born free 1962. On the right side, we've got our kill switch and integrated starter. Let's start her up. Oh yeah. My bike sounds better than your bike. Interestingly, this little button turns the headlights on and off. To me, the Scrambler Full Throttle is a ball of aesthetic wonderful, and one of the nicer features is this ring of LEDs that paints a really nice picture. If you're blasting up on somebody and they see this in the rearview mirror, maybe there's a little light intimidation factor. Interestingly, I've never owned a motorcycle where you have to turn the lights on manually at nighttime. So I'm guessing there is some potential that riders might just use the LED illumination and forget to actually turn on the halogen center bulb, which is a little bit of an odd combination too. You got these LEDs and then old school halogen right in the middle. Talking about the headlight is a good segue into the general aesthetic of the Full Throttle. It is based on and I'm gonna have to refer to my notes here, it takes its cues from the flat track Scrambler ridden by California racer Frankie Garcia in the 2018 American Super Hooligan Championship. I'll be honest, I don't follow motorsports, and I certainly don't follow, flat track racing? Do you guys follow flat track racing? Should I? However they came to this design, I think it works really well. Reinforcing that flat track, dirt-based concept is this blocky tread, Pirelli MT60 RS's. I think that's maybe more of an aesthetic choice, but I'm okay with that, because really, isn't that what the Scrambler's all about? Putting out that vibe? The combination of yellow and black, quite fetching. Little side piece here, and then the rear seat cover. And actually, I haven't taken this off yet. Let's see what's beneath. If you need to take the seat off, look under here, and there you got a little key spot. Let's get in there. So if you turn the key, the back pops up, and then you've got a little small storage area right here with on-brand materials. Ducati branded little rain and debris cover, toolkit right here. And if we wanted, we could take the seat cover off, just 2 bolts, boom, boom, pops right off, and then you can have somebody to ride with if you have any friends. Let's start a sad Micah meme, noting that I have no friends to ride with me. Will you ride on the back of my motorcycle? Wouldn't. Bad idea. Okay, now this is cool. Underneath the seats, they have a standard USB port. So if you have USB powered anything, then that is really convenient that that's built right in. Very cool, Ducati. And while we're putting the seat back on, let's talk about the seat. I like the yellow stitching that really matches the rest of the aesthetic. It looks really wide right here, but I have noticed that when sitting on it, I tend to slide forward, which puts a lot of pressure on my, I don't want to get overly explicit, but I have been told that grundle is an okay word. You can say that. So for long distance comforts, if you're sitting a little further forward, it might put pressure in the wrong region for you. And the knee position being a little bit higher, which puts a little bit more bend in my leg than I'm used to, but that's all pretty nitpicky stuff. I think if you wanted to have a good long run on the Scrambler, you'd probably be just fine. Or you'd learn to adapt. Other details that make the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle a full throttle are the Termignoni dual-tailpipe exhaust. That's what that looks like. I've definitely mispronounced it, but at least you can see what it looks like. Up front, we've got a little stubby mudguard. The kind of thing that you might miss because it's so small. I don't know how much mud it's guarding from, but it does exist. This little panel right here, you could put a race number on it if you wanted to, but then you'd look like a real poser if you weren't actually racing, so use that one with caution. So the general premise with the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle is that you want a bike that looks racy, but is totally workable for daily commutes. To verify that, let's ride the thing.
By the way, for slow speed handling, you got a lot of steering angle to work with. Yeah, let's do a controlled U-turn here and see how she feels. The Scrambler turns. Verified. Mercy, what a glorious day. See, don't you wish you were out here with me right now? All of Los Angeles is encased in a layer of clouds, but up here it's just perfect. In terms of clutch pressure, it's pretty easy to actuate the lever here. But if you want to do clutchless upshifts, the Scrambler is happy to do that too. Shifts just fine. Clutchless to 5th, clutchless to 6th. Yep, no worries. Feels good. Feels smooth. Let's see what happens if I get in a tuck. Yeah, okay. It doesn't change the wind situation much, but it will help you avoid butterflies and other random flying insects. Hey! The Harley guys waved at me. Sweet. If you're wondering how much all this fun costs, it's right about $11,000 for the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle. I have noticed that at that price, I might expect an extra disc up front. I've got a single front brake disc. But again, maybe we're getting obsessed with numbers. 2 certainly seems better than 1, but where braking power is concerned, yeah, that feels plentiful. And as a guy who's not going to be taking this to the track, because who really would? Well, maybe flat track, but you're not going to be taking this out for race weekends. You know, that dual disc thing may be unnecessary. And I do love that ABS is included. That's increasingly common these days, but honestly, I wouldn't buy a new bike without it. Ooh, my toe set down. It kind of freaked me out. That is a very natural segue into one of my ergonomic issues. It may not affect you, but for me, the structural elements that hold on the rear pegs protrude a bit from the side of the motorcycle, and in doing so, they move my heels outward a little bit. So I have a little bit of a pigeon toe riding position, which is, I would say, suboptimal. And if I move my feet forward to avoid those, then my toes start interacting with the brake pedal and the shift lever. That's one of those deals that might be very specific to my preferred ergonomic style, but it's something worth considering if you're in the market for a Ducati Scrambler. Oh yeah, rock slide. It might be reflective of the fact that I'm now 41 years old, but I am so disinterested in bragging rights or numerically impressive vehicles. I'm so much more interested in fun. So like right there, I'm on full throttle coming out of that turn in third gear, but it's really satisfying to use all the bike has to offer in terms of thrust. I guess what I'm saying is that the Scrambler is very much about fun, both aesthetic fun and just riding fun. There's the single disc doing just fine. Set a toe down again. Yeah, those quick left-right switchbacks, having the leverage of the bars to really quickly toss the bike one direction then the other, that's really fun. Hanging off the bike sort of unnecessarily. Coming from a sport bike background, I naturally favor the front brake, but if you are going to use the back brake on the Scrambler, it's worth observing that it takes a lot of pressure. This is like, yeah. Very firm feeling brake, and it takes a lot of foot pressure to get to do anything, so oh man, bicyclists always freak me out because they're going down the same road I am. I mean, granted they're going slower, but all that Lycra. So the downside of an unfaired bike is that you experience more wind than you would otherwise, and if you're not used to that, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. The upside is that during summertime, you got a really solid blast of wind all over your torso, which really helps keep you cool. And again, for having nothing in the form of a fairing but just a headlight up there, this is more than acceptable. That is a very nice CRV. Thank you, CRV. Sometimes you come on these roads and people don't use the turnouts, which is, oh, that guy got a snake. I don't know if you can see it there, but that motorcyclist was just standing on the side of the road holding a snake that I believe he killed with a tire. You, sir, are more badass than I. Honestly, anytime I ride a motorcycle or drive a car, I start doing the math on opportunity costs. And the question is, well, so if you have $11,000 to spend on a motorcycle, why would you spend it here? I think the big answer would be style. The thing looks fantastic, and it's just a really fun riding motorcycle. And at the speeds I'm going to, the blocky tread on the tires is not an impediment. I'm sure some other much more talented rider could overwhelm the abilities of the standard tires, but again, I'm not interested in that. There's a combination here of daily livability, just enough sportiness, and then exquisite style that I think works really well. Can you buy a more capable motorcycle for less money? Yes, you can. Will it look this cool? Will your neighbors wave at you every time you go by, or give you the, hey? Maybe not. All right, I'm cruising along at 50 miles an hour. I'm in third gear, right about 5,000 RPM. Let's see what kind of mid-range punch we've got. Full throttle. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to lift the front tire with that, but I'm not the kind of guy who's going to lift the front tire anyway. There's plenty of power to work with. Naturally, there is always a Toyota here to slow you down. We have a Solara this time. That is the V6. Looks like we got the, what is that? The XLE trim? SLC trim? I don't know my Solara trims. I think it's the fancy one though. This guy has a V6 that he is not putting to good use. Hey! All right. You've earned yourself a friendly wave. Thank you, good sir. Okay, we're having pretty good luck today with the car drivers. Car drivers? That sounds really redundant. Now this is a very smooth road, so we're not putting the suspension to any kind of test. In a street environment on really broken pavement, it can be a little bit firm, but not dangerously so. What you don't want is to hit a bump mid-corner and then to have your tire like losing contact with the ground, skipping across the pavement or something. I haven't noticed anything like that. So in terms of general ride quality, the Scrambler's doing just fine. The suspension is not a radically sophisticated adjustable affair. You can adjust preload in the rear, and that's about it. But for my weight, you know what? I'm not sure how much I weigh these days. Probably 170 or something like that. But for my frame, the suspension seems to be doing a pretty good job. Your results may vary. Hello, friends. Well, this is good. At a normal cruising speed, the mirrors are still usable. Sometimes, on my bike, for example, I have a 2017 FZ09. When I'm cruising on the freeway, I can't use the mirrors for a damn thing. By the way, somebody on my Instagram feed noted that I should immediately take the mirrors off this thing. It's a press bike, probably not going to do that. Honestly, I am so much less concerned with aesthetic than I am the ability to spot cops and other motorists behind me. So I'll just leave these right where they are. Thank you very much. That's cool. So I'm at a little over 2,000 RPM, fourth gear, 29 miles an hour. And as I roll into the throttle, it doesn't just die. There's a lot of potential for that kind of thing, but not just, it pulls with reasonable grunt. I like that. All right, let's stop and synopsize. All in all, I really like the Ducati Scrambler Full Throttle. If I had to encapsulate its essence, it might be a little like a $400 helmet, maybe a $500 helmet. I don't remember what I paid for that. It's a little bit pricier, but it's worth it.